You're listening to the Culture of the Backstep podcast. Today we have on Trevor Williams, and we'll be interviewing him kind of a little bit about his past, his time in the fire service, and about his invention. Trevor, you want to start off by telling us a little bit where you come from?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. Excited we were able to make this happen. Yeah, hello to all your listeners. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about who I am and what I'm all about. 34 years old, married, two little baby girls, a 1 and a 2-year-old, and I live out here in the Los Angeles area. I work for Los Angeles County Fire Department out of West Hollywood. Been there a little over 8 years, and before that I did 4 years of volunteer for the city of Sierra Madre. Been in the fire service most of my adult life, whether it's volunteer or career, and decided I wanted to be a firefighter pretty early on. I grew up as a missionary. I'll talk about that in a sec, but I was able to do the Fire Explorer program when I was 15 and a half. They allow you to start training out here with LA County Fire. So from almost the last, almost 20 years, I've been involved in some way, some form or another.
That's awesome.
But yeah, a little bit about my upbringing. I was born on the East Coast in Virginia. Lived there for about 4 years before my family decided they wanted to go to Africa and be missionaries. So this was a big change. At the time, I was an only child. I have two younger sisters now, but when I was 4, it was just me. And we packed up and moved to a country called Zaire. And it was called Zaire at the time. It's now called the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we were there during a civil war. So a lot of civil unrest going on. If you've seen the movie Hotel Rwanda, we were there during that time where I always mess up the names, but Hutus and the Tutsis were at war. That was turned into a big deal, and a lot of other countries got involved. And the hardships you hear about Africa and like the child soldiers and all that stuff, that was kind of like forming and starting to go on while we were living there. So it ended up becoming too dangerous for us to stay in Zaire. So after a couple years, we moved to Johannesburg in South Africa to cool off and try and wait out some of the war. Unfortunately, South Africa was dangerous in its own way, a lot of gang violence and just different challenges over there. So we had little panic buttons, and we weren't supposed to be out by ourselves, and carjackings and robberies were very common. And we didn't find this out till later, but apparently the family that lived in the house before us had been killed in their home, and that's why we were able to get that house. So
Wow.
out here in the States, you're supposed to disclose that information, before you sell a house or people move in, but over there, they don't care. So yeah, after not too long, we tried to go back to Zaire, and at that point, the name had changed to DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And we went back for a little bit, but it was still too rough. So I ended up evacuating out of there, and we moved from Africa to Connecticut. And in Connecticut, that's my mom's side of the family. So I've got some grandparents up there. Lived there during a few of my middle school years. And then from there, parents got the calling again and decided to move to the island of Haiti. And at that time,
That must have been a really big difference, not only in like culture, but probably like in weather, going from South Africa to Connecticut.
yeah, no, yeah, Haiti's pretty hot, and then the East Coast, it has all 4 seasons. So, and I like that. You get your snow, and the autumn, fall time is very pretty, and then it's muggy in the summer. But the bigger culture shock, I think because I was older at this point, was going from like upper middle class New York, Connecticut, New England area to the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, which was Haiti. And it was a total culture shock. And I was kind of in like my more impressionable years as like a 12-year-old, where my whole world was the friends I had in Connecticut and just my small little ecosystem was like kind of wiped out from underneath me, and now I'm like fearful for my life, and there's like you hear gunshots and fighting all the time and rioting, and we have a security gate with barbed wire around it and a guard dog, and it's just a whole different world, really. So for your listeners, at the time, nobody knew what Haiti was. It's a little bit more well known now. But Haiti and the Dominican Republic make up the island of Hispaniola, and it's about 565 miles south of Florida in the Caribbean. Yeah, it's just it's a really tough place and has lots and lots of needs. They're always getting hit with disease or hurricanes or famine, and just there's a lot of poverty, a lot of violence, and it's not run well either. So while we were living there, the government was being overthrown. The president at the time, his name was Aristide, and he was being ousted. So the country was rebelling against him, and he eventually had to take off. And then there was no leader, and just gangs were running wild and making roadblocks out of dead bodies and setting stuff on fire. And there's most kidnappings per capita in the world while I was living there. So just a crazy place. And we were there to do emergency relief work through World Vision. My dad was working for World Vision, both in Africa and in Haiti. And a lot of people have heard of World Vision because they sponsor like a kid. They'll help a kid eat for like $30 a month or whatever. But that's like one small tiny thing that World Vision does. And what we were doing was like nothing related to that. It was like education and clean water and housing and just a whole bunch of stuff. So that's why we were out there. And then again, it got too bad. Like it got too dangerous for us to stay. So that's how I ended up here in California. They told us go to LA. There's a World Vision headquarters there. My dad can continue doing some work out of there. We'll try and get you back to Haiti in like 6 months or so. But for me, 6 months turned into 18 years, and I'm still out here.
You like
so
California?
I do. It's beautiful. You know, there's lots to do. I don't necessarily like how it's run. I think, you know, there's a lot of mismanagement of money, and there's like a big homeless issue, and it's just, yeah, it kind of gets it gets out of control. Sometimes we're just like Hollywood, and you know how it goes. So, but as far as a state goes, it's a very pretty state. The weather's great. There's lots of nice cars and fun things to do. Good fires. We get, not that any fire is good, but we have a variety. So we have brush fires. I work in one of the high-rise cities. Hollywood has a lot of high-rise buildings, Sunset Boulevard, and our tallest high-rise is 32 stories. So that's its own dynamic style of fire. Wow. And then we have a lot of commercial apartments and residential as well. So you get
in my district, we have like limitations. We have nothing over 3 stories. So our biggest structures are 3-story apartment complexes, and that's as high up as we go. So I'm sure that you add 10 times that you guys get a lot of exercise walking up and down the stairs.
Yeah, it's very humbling. I haven't fought a fire on like the top floor of our tallest building. That would just be, that would be so brutal. But yeah. I've done like 8 to 10 stories, and before you even get to the fire, you're just wasted. You're just so tired, and you're breathing smoke in the stairwell on your way up and carrying all your gear up there, and it's brutal. And the same goes for brush fires. I don't have as much experience doing the brush fires, but we've been burning a lot. So they'll send one of our engines from our station out to the desert, which is like an hour drive, and they're getting brush starts every day. And I went up there a couple weeks ago. We got 4 brush fires. Well, we got sent to 4 brush fires. We only made it onto 1, because as soon as you get sucked into one, you get canceled from the others, or you might end up just using all your time up on one of those brush fires. But so we were first on scene.
You guys are there for like hours at a time.
Yeah, it could be a really long time. Sometimes it could be like, if it gets away from you, you could be out there for a month, you know. So, or they do, I haven't been out on a long one for a while, but I think I think you can go out for like 14 days and then you need a day off and then they can keep you out there as long as 21 days or something like that. But this last one I went on, I hadn't been on one where I was like the first on scene, but we ended up seeing a new started brush fire on the way to another brush fire. So we're like, oh shoot, there's one right here. So we tried to like see if they would let us divert to the one that we're seeing like start, and they let us. Our dispatcher was like, yeah, go try and knock the teeth out of that one or whatever. So we diverted, and I was first on scene. And yeah, that's new because normally it's like I'll get to a fire, it's been burning for a few hours. There's like
Yeah.
100 people on it. I'm not the first. So this was crazy because that's where it's like it gets really exciting and really hard work because it's like this big old mountain's on fire and you're chasing it and you're pulling hose up the mountain that they're pumping water to you. So the hose is really heavy.
Wow.
And plus you're hiking and you're sliding down the mountain while you're hiking and it's hot and there's smoke and you don't have a breather on because it's brush fire. And then
Yeah.
before long, that these helicopters are flying over and dumping water, and we have inmate camp crews that they're called FSAs, fire suppression aides, and they don't use water; they just use their tools, and they'll cut line up the mountain. So we're like working with them, and yeah, it was brutal.
So a
um,
big brush fire for us is like 10 acres. Like we have a lot of farmland in our area, and a big brush fire for us, like one that we're bitching about, is 10 acres. So I can only imagine an entire mountainside being on fire, the difference in hard work. Because I feel like I'm doing a lot of work when we go to a 10-acre brush fire, which I haven't even been to a 10-acre brush fire. I feel like I'm doing a lot of work when we go to a 1-acre brush fire. So I can only imagine how much work you guys are doing when it's 4 times, 5 times that size.
yeah, well, these
Or
get into the thousands. Yeah,
yeah, I
it
was
could be
about to say
thousands of
hundreds of
acres.
times
Our
that
biggest
size.
one was like 100,000. So
Gosh.
I was hoping for, whenever I'm heading into like brush territory, I'm like, all right, cool. Something on flat ground would be fun, like a little half
Yeah.
acre. I can chase it or whatever. But once you get a mountain involved, that kind of takes some of the fun out of it. You work really hard
So
to
you
do
guys
all
get
that.
detailed out of your firehouse to go and fight these brush fires like hours away from your station.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. I've never been sent out of state, but we can even get called out of state depending on like what the needs are.
I didn't realize that. Is it just have to do with like California municipalities or?
Yeah, I think so. We'll be like mutual aid in a lot of the surrounding counties, and it depends if they need us or not. But we have, Cal Fire and Forest Service, and a lot of time they're so big and they're so good at what they do. Like they won't call for us unless they really need us. So, but yeah, as long as you pay us, like we'll come help.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
and it's like our department's huge. So we have like there's over 3,000 firefighters, that are like at stations and stuff between the firefighters, the paramedics, the engineers, and the captains. There's over 3,000 of us. And then I think as a whole, like the personnel, there's almost 5,000 personnel.
Wow.
So we're big and we have almost 200 stations and a ton of apparatus that we can borrow and move people around and staff strike teams and send people out on these. So
So educate me a little bit about LA County Fire. Are you guys designated to a single truck? Like I'm assigned to an engine at my station. Are you guys designated to a certain truck, or you guys kind of float to what fills the need of the station?
so there's kind of two answers to that. You are assigned to a specific spot on a specific piece of apparatus because when you can bid a station, right? Like if you want to work somewhere, you make sure they want you to be there. You put in the paperwork, and you're filling a spot, and that spot could be the tillerman on the aerial truck of truck 8 at station 8. That specific spot needs to be filled, and that's your spot. However,
Hmm.
most stations will move guys around depending on who's working that day, the skill level, just the needs, because there's so many different qualifications, and you might get somebody from outside your station that nobody's ever worked with before that don't know how we run high rise, right? So we're not going to put you in a vital high rise role at our station, having never trained with you before. So we might find an easier role for you that day that we know you can handle and move some people around to make sure that we're the safest we can be, if we get something dangerous, if that
Right.
makes sense.
We're kind of similar in that we have people assigned to the apparatus, and then the captain can kind of move people around as he feels necessary. We run an engine and a ladder truck, so we staff. The engine has three on it, and the ladder truck has two, which I know for you being in a bigger city, that sounds like crazy low staffing numbers, but that's super high for us. And so, like, say we run captains and sergeants. So the sergeants are the engineers, and the captain's
Okay.
like the company officer. And sometimes, depending on how the shift goes, the sergeant may be driving the engine, and there may be another sergeant driving the ladder, or the sergeant may be on the ladder, and one of the firefighters may be driving the engine. Like last Saturday, I was driving the engine, and the sergeant was driving the ladder. It kind of depends on whatever the need of the district is at that point in time. So we kind of
Gotcha.
bounce back and forth.
Okay.
We don't have
Interesting.
we're not like tied down to a specific apparatus. If it's in a rural part of the district, the people on the ladder will hop off and get on the tanker. If it's in a more urban area, then we'll take the ladder and the engine, and sometimes we'll just roll the engine and roll super heavy with five people on it.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to be like flexible, right? So
Yeah,
you feel where the needs are at. Yeah, it's like that for us too. The only thing that I guess can be tricky is since you are actually assigned to a very specific piece of equipment in a specific role, you can kind of pull your card and be like, "Hey, this is my spot. Like, I don't want to rotate or like work anywhere other than the spot that I bid because it's mine, and like you can get the
yeah,
union involved and stuff. And like you can play that card, but you shouldn't, it's better to be like a flexible firefighter and go with the flow and like, make it work. But if you want to be a weirdo, you can do that. And then it makes everybody's life harder. But
So I have no idea about the geography of LA County and the city of Los Angeles. So like, do you guys run mutual aid with the city, or you guys spread out more? I don't know I know where Hollywood is. I don't know where West Hollywood is. I don't.
yeah, so our surrounding agencies are LA City. We're LA County, which is different than LA City. A lot of people think they're the same thing, but they're not. So LA City surrounds us, and their department isn't quite as big as ours, but they're big. They're pretty big, but they mostly cover just Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, and the city of Los Angeles is huge and like lots of fires and just everything. It's a very happening city with like the gangs and the fires and the drugs, and you need a lot of fire stations to handle all of it. And we're basically an island surrounded by a city. West Hollywood has two fire stations, Fire Station 7 and Fire Station 8. I'm at Fire Station 8. And then surrounding us, LA City, and then Beverly Hills. So Beverly Hills is to our west, and then city is above and below us. So we'll
So do
end
you
up,
guys? Yeah.
yeah, we'll end up on fires together. City tends to burn more than we do. So we're always like looking for smoke headers and like trying to scope out a little bit and see if we can get on their fires. Because if they do need us, they will not tell us right away. Like they'll tell us late, so that they make sure they get there first and stuff. And they do not like it when we get to their fires first, which happens sometimes. And we try and play nice, but it doesn't always go that way. That's unfortunate. Like I'm all about let's share the fires and let's help each other out and that sort of thing. But there's a
Right.
little bit of butting heads when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, probably not nearly as bad as Detroit and Highland Park, though. Yeah,
There's like
you hear
fist
about
fights on scene and
yeah,
stuff.
fist fights in the front yard of
It's
the house,
happened.
and then Detroit packs their stuff up and leaves.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
So,
There've been some fights.
do you guys only go to working fires with them? Are you guys automatic on a box, or do they only request you? Like, you don't come out of your district unless they ask.
We can